All right, Bulls Nation, we are officially deep into trade season with that February 5th trade deadline looming closer than ever. With that, you know what goes along with trade season?
Tell me.
The trade machine. So we got a couple of new ones that our guy Willie Golly cooked up involving Coby White, involving Vooch, and a few different teams around the league who could be buyers between now and that deadline. Let's start with this one, Goat. 3-team trade between the Bulls, Timberwolves, and Pistons. There has been some talk and even some reporting from different areas that the Timberwolves, trying to bolster their backcourt, could have some interest in Coby White. And so you have the Timberwolves getting Coby White in this trade, with the Bulls getting a couple of interesting pieces back, and then the Pistons also being involved, and Dante DiVincenzo switching teams.
Oh, wow.
Talk us through this.
Yeah, so hearing some of the Bulls Timberwolves rumors and then looking at what the Wolves have to offer, they are out of first-round picks to trade. So I wanted to try to get a little bit creative here, as I think Arturas is going to have to if he wants to get a draft pick, which is what reports are saying he's looking for. And I think this might be the way to do it, is to have the Timberwolves send DiVincenzo out to another team who's going to be willing to give up a late first-round pick to get him, and then the Bulls taking back Mike Conley as basically salary filler. Yohan Berenger, who was a first-round pick this year, has shown a tremendous amount of upside as a run-and-jump athletic big who can block shots and be a rim roller. And then Coby White and Julian Phillips going to the Timberwolves, with the Bulls getting a pick from the Pistons, which is probably going to be like 28th or 29th, but that at least gives them a couple of assets that they can work with. And I think that's really a key here, is you look back at Arturas' trade history, and a lot of them is one for one player going out, one asset coming back. And I think what they need to do is try to get themselves a couple of different bites at the apple. Maybe you buy Mike Conley out and let him go play for a contender, and you bring in Berenger, who could be a potential center of the future, and another first-round pick. And who knows, maybe the Pistons fall off a little bit and that ends up closer to 20 than 30. Great. Now you've got a couple of good assets you can work with. But I think this is really one of the few ways that I could think of that not only get the Bulls a young prospect, but also get them a pick by including another team.
Can you talk a little bit more about Berenger?
Yeah. He was somebody that was, I think he was the 18th pick in the draft, mid-teens, late teens, but 6'10", 19-year-old from France, really athletic, lob catcher, had a really strong game recently. Had a 7-block game in Summer League. So just a real athlete. And I think what this would be kind of doing for the Timberwolves is, one, saving them a lot of money, right? In this scenario, they basically are $3 million away from getting under the first apron, and they save about $11 million on this deal. So that really helps give them some flexibility, and that's why they'd be maybe willing to give up one of their, premier young players that they have that they're kind of hoping can be the next Rudy Gobert for them. But maybe they view Coby as somebody that can help put them over the top now, and they can figure out center down the line.
Yeah, I love this trade.
Yeah.
I really do love it. That's why I wanted you to talk about Berenger, because one thing I think the Bulls definitely need is more athleticism. I've been complaining about it for the past few games, watching it with Matt.
Several times last night.
My God. Like, the athleticism is really lacking on this team. So having someone like that could just honestly open up the possibilities when you having a point guard and you want to play fast and you want to run in transition and you're playing and leading the league in pace. You need athletes to make that look even more awesome and to work even better. And also, I've been trying to get Mike Conley on the Bulls for like 5 years. So I love it.
You don't like to buy him out and let him go play on a playoff team part of the plan.
If you want to keep him, that's fine, but just they could. And that, I think that's it's the flexibility there.
I wanted Conley on the Bulls 10 years ago. I am a fan of this trade too, especially, of course, the Bulls getting themselves a first-round pick in the deal. That's my one question for this 3-team trade is, do you think the Pistons could see DiVincenzo as such a big win-now helper piece that they'd be willing to part with first-round draft capital for him, Goat?
Well, I think that's really the question, but they need shooting to add to their core and some shot creation, and DiVincenzo gets them up. He's also a very solid defender. And the reality is, it's a first-round pick, but not all firsts are created equal. This is going to be the 26th, 27th, 28th pick in the first round, not quite the same as a lottery pick, but at least Arturas can come out in the press conference and say, we got one young piece in Berenger who we think can be, a foundational piece for us moving forward. As you said, an athletic center who can catch lobs from Giddey and screen and roll and get out in the open court. And then you also give yourself a pick. Like, to me, there's not a ton of upside with that, but there's upside in just getting two different things, because I don't think that premier, unprotected, top 10 lottery caliber of pick is going to be out there for Coby. And so I do think they have to get creative. And one way to do that is by including another team, but also being willing to take on multiple, maybe lower upside assets to see if you can hit on something.
All right, we got another one, and a little less complicated because just two teams, the Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks. Hypothetically here, we're seeing the currently unable to play Kristaps Porzingis coming to Chicago, along with the youngster Asa Newell, and a 2026 first-round pick that does have a few different swap considerations attached to it, and the Bulls sending Vooch and Coby to Atlanta. You're thinking behind this one.
Yeah, this one would just be basically the Hawks traded Trae Young, and now they need to find a replacement at point guard. They create a bunch of cap space for themselves this summer, and so there's a threat that, hey, if you are, if you're the Hawks and you're trying to get a deal done for Coby, you can threaten and say, we can just sign him outright in the offseason. So I don't think there would be quite as much coming back, but they've done well with a stretch big, and Vooch way more reliable just in terms of being on the court than Porzingis. So he gives you that, but you don't necessarily need him to be your defensive anchor because you still have Okongwu. And so the Bulls get a couple of assets. This pick from, it's the worst of the Spurs and the Hawks pick in the first round. And then there's some other complications with it in terms of other teams being involved. And then I can read that out, but it's just kind of boring.
Yeah.
And then Asa Newell, who was, I think, the 23rd pick by the Hawks, not really a 5, not really a 4 either, but he can shoot a little bit. He can block some shots, and he's actually playing pretty well, but just another bite at the apple. And it's kind of a similar philosophy as the previous one, which is, can we get a couple of different things in here that can maybe help us going forward? They're not going to get that premier asset, blue chip building block that they can move forward with, but maybe they can get a couple of pieces, and they're a team that wants to play with depth. Like maybe you get 2 guys in here that can play, and maybe Porzingis looks good, and then you can re-sign him as a shot blocking, 3-point shooting, spacing big. So it's just optionality, and they just don't have that right now. And so I'm trying to think of ways that they can do that, given that I don't think they're going to be getting a pick that could end up in the top 10.
Dave, you a fan of this one?
I'm not as much as the other one.
Okay.
But I see where the brain is at as far as Will Go Gottlieb is concerned. And I think getting a guy like Porzingis feels like a Chicago Bulls kind of move under AK. Getting a guy like Porzingis and re-signing him, I don't think you would – this is just my opinion. I don't think AK would get him in this trade and then let him walk out the door. I think he's going to re-sign him, give him a couple years on the deal, and replace, maybe a Vooch or something like that and say, hey, we got this guy, stretch big, who can shoot threes and do all this other stuff, and then he'll get hurt. We won't see him. But – they'll have him on the team. They'll look good for a little bit, and it'll be why. I'm more intrigued in Asa Newell, because obviously it's a younger guy, and I want to see how he develops, in this kind of system that the Bulls have. But it feels more like a Bulls move, and it feels like the previous one is not. And maybe that's why I like the previous one a little bit.
Newell, would you call him a toolsy wing? Do we have enough of those who aren't really helping the Bulls win games? The Kristaps thing, to me, is just very murky. His playing career future is very murky right now. So I think it's more taking on that unwanted stuff from Atlanta in this swap. The reason I like this one, hypothetically, you're taking away Vooch and Coby and replacing them with very little production.
Yeah.
This means more L's for a Bulls team that, hey, you might get yourself a late first-round pick in one of these trades between now and the deadline.
Yeah.
You desperately need a high lottery pick on this team right now. Yeah. You just do.
You do.
So, a few more L's stacked for sure if the Bulls say goodbye to Coby and Vooch before that trade deadline.